You're one of the first 3 martial arts schools in the entire country, as far as we know. This is not a big world of that level of a martial arts school to hit $1 million in revenue out of a single location.
And how did that shape your approach to Next Level?
So that's actually where I fell in love with marketing and sales, because that's what I started to really realize was the driver of all the other things. Now, I spent most of my energy cleaning up operations, building playbooks, methodologies, because you could only have so many people teaching karate. If I taught all the classes, I couldn't do any marketing and sales. If I taught all the classes, I couldn't do any training. I had to work my way out of teaching so I could do more marketing and sales, which drove the economic engine. And so that's where I fell in love with this idea of revenue and profitability, because those are the only 2 things that mattered to us. What do you think our meeting started with and ended with? What's our top line? What's our bottom line? All the other stuff is just issues to solve. And so I think that's where it really started. And I'll never forget the year we were going to hit $1 million. I'd really gotten the modeling down to, I knew for every call that came in, how many people would walk through our front door, how many people would start a trial with us, how many people would sign up full time, would they pay for program 1 or program 2, and how long they would last. And because of that, I could actually build a formula and an Excel spreadsheet based on our events from the last year. And I modeled out and I said, we're going to make $1,030,000. And we joked about the 30,000, and it's like, why do we want to do 1,030,000? And we laughed. It's because the credit card takes 3%. And so if you take that off, $1 million goes to the bank. So that was our goal. And we hit 1,033,000 that year. And that's when
Amazing.
I really realized I had figured like it is a math game. That's when it became, it's just math. It's
So talk us through that formula, because I'm fascinated, because lots of these influencers, these people that come up with these formulas on how to be able to grow a business. But what was your formula that you were able to create?
So this is funny because most of podcasts, most of the things you could learn, and I was consuming everything I could because it wasn't like I had anybody and we didn't have any budget for personal development. I just had to figure it out. I used the lab, and it's like data was always the source of truth. And most people talk about tactics and they want strategies. And those are all bullcrap if you don't know your numbers. It's truly all bullcrap. It's guessing. And I don't guess because I'm a terrible guesser. Just ask my wife. When I think about metrics, I start to get really grounded in reality and numbers. And so the formula started to become very simple. And I call it revenue cascade now. That's the intellectual property we've brought to the world. I call it revenue cascade. And if you think about marketing as a funnel, which most people can envision, and you think about sales like a pipeline, it's illustrated in most CRMs as left to right moving. I really realized, and I didn't have the language for this when I was at the karate school, that they needed to be stacked. I watched the World Cup and the famous South African one with the vuvuzelas. And so that kind of is what my head had, is you've got this funnel at the top and the skinny thing coming down. And if you can understand how many people touch your brand as far away from your work as you can, and you measure every interaction between them and your front door, and then every interaction from their front door all the way to the time they sign in the dotted line or the credit card is swiped, whatever, you can start to see where things are stuck. You can start to see kinks in the hose. You can start to see, I call it like an MRI, right? You can see the blockages, right? Lots of layers, lots of little cuts. And so at the karate school, we started with, okay, we want to hit 1 million. How much do we need to do in December? We need to have 400 students paying their monthly recurring subscription. We need to add 20 students. Okay, how do you add 20 students paying 50% paying in full, 50% paying over time? Okay, those are just numbers. I know what the value is for full. I know what the value is for their monthly subscription. I have last year's data so I can stack on top and build from there. Where do the students come from? You start to look at all the different, this is where the fancy word of channels comes in. So if we run a birthday party, we tend to get 1 or 2 people interested. Well, if I can get them through the front door and I have that show up rate, I know I'm going to 90% likely get them on a trial. If I get them on a trial, I know it was like mathematically beautiful. It was like 49.7% of the time I would hit